Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something that's honestly fascinating, but somehow constantly overlooked in the tech world. We're talking about that massive, somewhat intimidating gap between the grand promises made by software companies and the actual, boots-on-the-ground execution of those promises. Specifically, we're going to explore the absolutely critical role of the forward deployed engineer, or FDE. So if you've ever wondered how abstract, high-level tech visions actually become a functional reality, you're in exactly the right place.
Think about this for a second. What actually happens after the deal is signed? A massive software contract gets inked, hands are shaken, maybe some champagne is popped. But, well, a signed piece of paper doesn't magically make a complex software system integrate with a customer's deeply entrenched, messy business operations. There's this instant, massive knowledge gap between a visionary tech deal and functional reality. Someone has to step in and actually make that connection happen.
To break this all down, we're going to look at three clear things today. First, the big picture, what an FDE actually is. Then, the architecture of execution, how they get things done day to day. And finally, the bigger idea, looking at ownership and impact. Okay, so let's jump right into part one, the big picture and how we bridge that gap. It's kind of like a global free trade agreement. When two countries strike a deal, the visionary leaders, the prime ministers or presidents, they meet up, they shake hands, and they sign the policies. They're outlining this grand vision. But they aren't the ones out there figuring out the logistics of customs or physically moving cargo from point A to point B. That falls to the trade workers on the ground. In the software world, sales teams are those visionary leaders pitching the dream. But the FDEs, they're the on-ground trade workers. They're the backbone making sure the product actually operates within the specific, sometimes chaotic realities of a customer's business. And to bridge that gap, an FDE absolutely needs a problem discovery mindset. Because, and this is a golden rule, what a customer asks for is rarely the actual problem. Often, a stakeholder will ask for a specific feature or complain about some surface-level issue. But it's like a giant iceberg. An FDE has to keep asking why, diving beneath that stated request to find the true root cause operational gap. If they don't, a simple Band-Aid fix could end up breaking the whole system down the line. Which brings us nicely to our second layer, the architecture of execution, or how an FDOE actually operates. Let's look under the hood. An FDE doesn't just guess and hope for the best. They use a really clean, structured execution framework to turn business needs into technical realities. Step 1 is to deeply understand the true intent of the problem. Step 2, break it all down. What APIs need tweaking, what UI updates are required. Step 3 is to align multiple stakeholders across product, engineering, and the customer so everyone's on the same page. Step 4 is to actually solve it and build the solution. And finally, step 5 is to validate it. Now, how this framework gets used really depends, because FDEs typically live in one of two different worlds. In one world, you have implementation. That's onboarding brand new systems from scratch, reviewing scopes of work, writing technical designs, the whole 9 yards. But in the other world, you have change management. And this is literally like trying to upgrade a moving train. If an existing customer needs a new workflow, an FDE has to make sure that updating one little required field doesn't suddenly break thousands of historical orders that are already active in the system. Whether you're building from scratch or managing a moving train, how do you measure success? Well, consider a number like 10,000. In a lot of these software contracts, success isn't just, hey, we deployed the code. It's measured by a minimum guarantee. An FDE literally guarantees that the system will flawlessly handle, say, 10,000 real transactions. This metric is a real game changer because it forces the FDE to ensure the software delivers undeniable value. If it doesn't hit that minimum guarantee, the project just isn't a success. No way around it. To make sure they hit that minimum guarantee, we go right back to that validation step. And I really love this analogy. An FDE operates a lot like a head chef in a restaurant. You can write the recipe, you can train your line cooks, but before that plate ever leaves the kitchen and hits the customer's table, you have to actually taste the dish. An FDE rigorously tests the system, conducting user acceptance testing to validate real-world scenarios, so the client only ever receives a totally perfected solution. Let's ground this in a real-world scenario. Say you're an FDE for a retail operations platform. Step 1, a customer places an online order. Seems easy enough, right? But behind the scenes, the FDE has built the entire workflow for Step 2, automatically pinging a third-party service to route that order to the nearest physical store. Step 3, syncing the warehouse inventory database in real time so nothing oversells. And Step 4, triggering an automated API call to send an SMS confirmation to the buyer. The business just sees a smooth, easy sale, but the FDE, They designed, aligned, and tasted the entire technical workflow that made it happen without a hitch. All right, let's zoom back out for our final layer, the bigger idea, focusing on ownership and impact. Stepping into this role requires a massive psychological shift. It is the leap from being a simple task doer to a true project owner. A task doer finishes their specific piece of code, closes their ticket, and says, "My part is done, not my problem anymore." But an FDE, they cannot afford to pass the buck. Because they're the frontline worker dealing directly with the customer, they take absolute end-to-end ownership. If a piece of the puzzle gets stuck internally, the FDE chases it down. They're ultimately responsible for guaranteeing that the system creates actual business value. And because they take on that end-to-end ownership, their highly technical micro-level work drives massive macro-level business impacts. By acting as the very last line of defense before a production failure hits, FDEs directly protect production stability. When they design workflows that users actually enjoy using, they drive high user adoption. And all of this rolls right up to the metrics that executives care about the most: skyrocketing net promoter scores and guaranteed long-term contract renewals. It really all boils down to this core philosophy. Small technical changes can have a massive operational impact. Because an FDE sits perfectly right there at the intersection of business needs and product engineering, they have a completely unique vantage point. They might look at a clunky workflow, maybe something requiring a user to manually upload thousands of data points, and realize that tweaking a single line of data formatting behind the scenes can automate the entire thing. Literally, one small code change on Monday leads to a tidal wave of efficiency for the customer by Tuesday. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. Whether you're a developer, a product manager, or a business leader, this FDE mindset, it's something you can adopt today. It is all about taking absolute ownership, digging way beneath the surface of what people ask for, and connecting the technical dots to real-world outcomes. Look at your own projects right now and ask yourself, what hidden operational gap will you bridge next? Keep analyzing, keep exploring, and keep executing.